Hello and welcome to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. My name is Theary and I'm sharing an interactive Halloween card that I created using the Creepy Candy Apple add-on. So let's get started. So here's a little close-up look at the products that I will be using today. Here on the left side are dies from the Apple of My Eye set, and on the right side are dies from the Creepy Candy add-on. You can see how the add-ons are a great addition to the Apple of My Eye set. I am making a Halloween themed card today, but you can turn this into a fall or an autumn card by not using the spooky eyes. Okay, so to start off my card, I selected the pieces that I will be die cutting. I ran all of the pieces out of white colored cardstock. You can go ahead and die cut it out of colored cardstock if you like to save up on time, but I love the blending and the inking process, so this is usually what I love to do. Okay, so going in with the base of the apple die cut, I am using my blending buddy and a purple shade of ink. When I was designing this card in my head, I wanted to look like a poisonous apple. I figured purple was the perfect choice of color. I first started by blending on a light shaded purple, then I went in with a darker shade of purple to deepen the intensity of the blending. I only blended ink towards the bottom of the apple because there will be lots of layering pieces that will go on top of the apple. To add some shine and shimmer to the apple, I sprayed a few spritz of shimmer spray. Okay, so for the layering top, you can make it look like a caramel drizzle, but since this is a Halloween card, I wanted to have a lot of spooky texture. So I'm using clear embossing ink and some wow embossing powder to achieve a leather appearance. The first two embossing powders that I am using are in the color Black Puff and Oil Slate. I first applied clear embossing ink to the die cut piece by pressing the pad directly onto the die cut. Then I went in with my embossing powder and poured it to coat the embossing ink. It's not going to have a perfect coverage, but I am okay with that. But if it's something that would bother you, you can use a blending brush to apply the ink instead. That would provide more coverage. After my coats of embossing powders, I am using my blending buddy and blending purple ink all over the entire area. Okay, so off screen, I went ahead and die cut the same piece out of vellum without including the spooky eyes. I adhered it behind an embossed piece with liquid adhesive. While that dries, I decided to start adding colors to the apple base. I am using my brown blending buddy and adding ink in the color brown and green. I then layered the pieces together with liquid adhesive. And this worm, it's super adorable. It's perfect for teacher appreciation or maybe on a card for a bookworm in your life. Okay, so this is a look at it layered. I want to create more drama to the layering piece. So I'm going in with black ink and inking that towards the edges of the cardstock. I also went in and inked it onto the vellum area as well. So now the fun part, creating the interactive spin. I am using Pear Blossom Pressed Easy Lights to create the glow behind the vellum. The one that I'm using here has 3 wires with 3 tiny lights attached to the end. For this mechanism to work, it comes with batteries that you just pop right into the unit. And there's a tiny button that when pushed will turn on the lights. I grabbed some tape and played around with the arrangement of the lights. I wanted to shine directly behind the vellum. So I made sure to bring the layered piece back and forth to be sure that the placement was correct. And once I was happy, I adhered it down with tape. I then used foam squares and pop over the layered embossed piece. To add interest, I use my white gel pen to create highlights and details. Okay, so now for the background. The background is actually quite simple. I didn't want to create too much in a background as the apple was the major star on my card front. So I kept things very simple. I used layered birch tree stencil and inked white ink onto a black colored cardstock. Then I inked the edges of the black cardstock with the white ink as well. To add more texture to the overall scene, I added some gold paint splatters throughout the entire card design. Okay, so for the easy light to activate, there needs to be pressure placed on the push button. I don't have any interactive sentiment stamps to use, but I use the sentiment Boo and heat emboss towards the bottom right of the card panel for the recipient to hopefully push, which will then activate the lights. I used Halloween sentiment and ran that out of vellum and orange colored cardstock for the spooky and sweet sentiment. Before I adhered it to the card panel, I want to try to figure out a good placement that would help hide the wires and allow the push button to remain underneath the Boo sentiment. Once I figured that out, I flipped the card panel over and added tape and glue to hold the unit in place. Then I turned it back over and adhered the apple down with liquid adhesive. Pay attention to the Boo sentiment as you don't want to cover that area up by mistake. I then used liquid adhesive and adhered the sentiment on the top portion of the card panel and adhered the worm towards the bottom, making sure to cover up the wires. So to make sure that the card is evenly layered, I added double foam strips to the back of the card panel before I adhered it to the top folding card base. Here you can see the space and gap between the card panel because of the easy lights. I added a few black eye beads from the shop and some googly eyes on the worm. And that's it! I hope you enjoy an interactive card making tutorial, and please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. That's a great way to make sure that you'll get notified when any future videos are uploaded. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye!